When I was going for all those trials, and I went for the trials with all of them, Millwall, Charlton, Orient, you know what I mean? I didn't get any answers from the Arsenals and this and that, the Chelseas and everything. I went on trials for London, went on trials for the district. And, I remember my mum used to say to me, and she wasn't saying it in a way of motivation. She'd probably say that now. But she used to say, many are called and few are chosen. When I went to Brighton when I was 19, I couldn't do anymore. I literally had to beg, steal and borrow to get to Brighton. One of the nights I didn't have any money to get back. I got money to go there, I didn't have any money to get back. I was trying to build myself up all through training to ask them for some money so as I could get back. We started training at 10, went back to the ground for 12:30, and I asked this lady in the office, I said, yeah, I'm a trialist and I just need some expenses to get back to London. And she's obviously somebody who hasn't got any kind of power or any kind of clout. So I don't even know if she even went in and told anybody, but she said, yeah, okay, could you just wait there? So we're talking 12:30. I was still outside the office at 5:15, waiting. And I kept saying, is anything happening? He said, yep, so we're just waiting. Obviously they're just sitting there just taking the piss out of me, really. And I remember Steve Foster, he was a captain of Brighton at the time. And obviously by now, Steve Foster had seen that I was a decent enough player. I was playing in training, started to talk to me and that, because I was there for 5-6 weeks, remember? And so Steve Foster said, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm waiting for expenses to get back to London. And his face contorted. He said, when from? From this morning? And I said, yeah. And I swear to God. He went into this room, man, and obviously being the captain of the club, everybody stood to attention, and he just blasted these people about treating people badly and how can you do this and this and that. It was, I didn't know what to do myself. I remember he came out with this woman, and the woman gave me something like, I don't know, it was like £200 or something. And I remember saying thank you to Steve, and then I remember I got a bus to the train station. I remember when I sat on the bus, I just burst into tears. I don't know why, but I just started to cry for some reason. And I think it was the helplessness of sitting there in someone else's hands like that. And I feel that you say about what drives you in respect of not giving up and going to prove people wrong. I think that having things like that naturally to draw on in respect of being in situations where you're helpless, and then being in a situation where you're no longer helpless, but you are in control of your own destiny. My attitude changed instantly to, right, now the work starts. And from that day, I don't think I finished on a training ground till the day I finished playing football. I never ever spent less than an hour and a half after training doing something, working hard on it. Once I got in the trial, and you got to remember, when I went to Brighton, I couldn't do any more. I scored goals against their first team. I was playing against their first team on trial. There's nothing more. I was going past them. I was scoring goals in the reserves. I got there on time from London to Brighton. You know what I mean? For 6 weeks, borrowing and stealing to get there. And in the end, the manager, Chris Catlin, he didn't even tell me, he told Tony Davis, we're not going to sign him. It was devastating. They said, there's no way they're not signing you with what we've seen. There's no way. And they didn't. So that was me finished. And remember, I had rejection issues when I went back to my community. And I was somebody that, everybody thought was going to be really good and never got through any trials. So when you go back to the Brockley and Southeast London, everybody says, yeah, he's good, but when he goes for trials, he doesn't make it. He's not really good, he's not great. And so the trial I went to was the Dulwich Hamlet trial at, where was we? Morden, somewhere near Morden. And the Crystal Palace scout came and saw me then. And I scored 3 or 4 goals in this game, and then the guy, Billy Smith, took me off. And that's when that's when Peter Prentice, who unfortunately is no longer with us, he approached me in that gruff voice what he had. Hello Ian, my name is Peter Prentice and I represent Crystal Palace, and we would like to offer you a 2-week trial at our football club. That's exactly what he said. And I remember saying to him, and I remember never been through a trial, got rejected in all the trials. The Brighton experience was still something that I didn't want to go back and say I've gone on another trial and I've failed. I said to him, to be fair, I've just got a very, very good job. It's paying me decent money, and I can't take that up. I remember going to work and I told the guy who I was working with about Palace and the trial, and he himself was a youth team player at Arsenal. And I said, yeah, I'll turn them down again. And then they phoned me again and I turned them down 3 times. I turned down Crystal Palace because I didn't want to give up the job. The prison experience and me making sure that I could provide, making sure that Sean and Bradley, they had what they needed, with respect to providing for them and learning the trade which I was trying to learn, which is plastering. And we started talking about it, and he said to me, how's that Palace thing, what's going on? I said, yeah, they offered me another trial. And he said, that's how many times now? I said, 3 times. He says, doesn't that say something to you? You don't want to, again, you don't want to get to your old age and think that you could have had an opportunity to be a footballer and you didn't take it because of the reasons you've given, and they're good reasons. But he said, I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to live with that. And maybe you should think about that before you turn them down again, if that's what you're thinking you're going to do. He said these things to me, Gary Twidell. And I said to him, would you be able to give me the time off? Because it's a 2-week trial. And he said, what I could do is, I could say you got injured, and then because, you know, I'll make something else up. Because obviously they're not going to pay you if you're not working. And I said, all right, then I'll do it. And this was on the Thursday. Told Tony Davis that Thursday night, and the Monday I went for the trial at Palace. That was it.
Now here's Wright, his first chance to show what he can do. And he's through! It's Wright! Oh, what an impact by the substitute!
Off goes Wright again. He's absolutely bursting with energy. A chance and a goal!
It was really weird because even getting dressed in the Crystal Palace kit, Jesus Christ, you know when you feel like, I felt like I shouldn't even have been in the dressing room, man. No one's even talking to me hardly. You know what I mean? I didn't know. You know, remember I'm a Sunday morning footballer. And now all of a sudden I've gone into this dressing room with my what did I have? I had Diodoras. With my Diodoras and underneath my kit, and you know, it was surreal because I didn't even know how to warm up properly. You know, when they went to go and warm up, so I didn't even know what to do, so I was just looking and copying people. And then I went on, and then the real bombshell after that game was Steve Coppell pulled me and he said, you need to come to the office where we're going to sign you for 3 months. To know that I was going to be able to call myself a professional footballer for 3 months was, that was the mind blower. That was the one what made me think, Jesus Christ. You know, and it was, that's when I phoned my mum from his office and said, Mum, I'm a professional footballer. You know, it's something that people always say to me, well, Ian Wright got taken at 22. But then, you know, it was that moment when I realized my life had changed.